There we go. Hi. Welcome to History Chats this afternoon. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes here. Um, yeah. We're going to get started in just a minute here with some little one of the unincorporated communities of Marathon County. This is what we're doing this week. Halder. Just making sure everything sounds like it's working okay. Good. So, yeah, while we're waiting, let me just tell you about some stuff that's coming up, because why not? Um, this weekend on Saturday, we're going to be our next History Speaks event, which is going to be a talk about the history of Wausau, as we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of the city of Wausau's charter. We're going to take a look at how we got to this point and how Wausau has developed over the years, what a little bit about the history of this community. So yeah, that'll be this Saturday at 2 o'clock. It will be in person, so if you want to come to the museum here, we'd certainly love to have you join the audience. But we also, as long as the internet holds out, we've been having some issues in the last couple days, but we think we got everything fixed, so it should be streaming as well. At the very least, as always, I will try to record that so that we will have that available in the near future once you get that uploaded. So it'll be available digitally. If not, as it's happening live, hopefully it will, but at the very least, it'll be available later. So yeah, that'll be a good program, I hope. I'm this is Ben Clark, and I'm going to be the one presenting it. So yeah, good. Anyway, so other than that, I guess I can tell you. So this week we are continuing our look at some unincorporated places in Marathon County. So we've been looking at some of the little places that aren't quite big enough to become villages, but are not, they're still there. So we did Bevent last week, we're in Halder this week, and next week we're going to be looking at Ponatuskee. So believe it or not, there is more there than just a interesting geographical curiosity. There is a little community there. So we'll be going through the history of that and telling you about it next week. So there you go. I think we're going to get going. Yeah, let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to Gary Gisselman now, and he's going to be telling you about the community of Halder. I'm going to make sure this time I have the right microphone. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben, and good afternoon, everyone. So today we're talking about Halder, carrying on with our unincorporated communities within Marathon County. As Ben said, an unincorporated place is a community. It's not chartered as a village. It's not chartered as a city like Mosinee, a village of Maine. For instance, there's villages and cities chartered. There's townships like Ween and Emmett. Those are those 6x6 geographical places in Marathon County, all over Marathon County. But little communities like Halder have been with us for a long time. And today we're talking about this little community of Halder, or subtitled, or the Irish settlement, and we'll talk a little bit about that also. But first of all, Halder is on the map. It's in the town of Emmett, a little west of Mosinee. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But here it is in the town of Emmett. Halder, this is I believe a 1900 map of Halder. So there it is. 153 isn't quite there yet, but we'll talk a little bit about that also. So here in 1900, this was Halder, with a town a little different than what it is today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that also. But this is pretty much what Halder was like in the early days, with a sawmill. Of course, it had its town hall. You can see maybe a saloon, a store, a post office, creamery, a variety of other things that were there in this along this little creek in the town of Emmett. So today Halder is on a little bit of a Halder Road, I guess, is what they're calling this little stretch of road south of 153. So you basically, if you come south on 107, turn right on 153, and you'll be soon coming into this little community of Halder on your left. St. Patrick's a little bit, and then I'll get a little bit further on down the road will be the little community of Halder. But first of all, we have to go back a little bit. It's the Irish settlement. And one of the key players in this Irish settlement was Robert Freeman. So as I was talked last week with Bevent, and which I will talk again next week with Poniatowski, the ethnic settlements in Marathon County are great stories, are great and a variety of different stories. For instance, Robert Freeman, born in 1830 in County Calvin, Ireland, came to America in 1850, came to Mosinee in 1851. 10 years later, he settled on land to the west of Mosinee along a creek, soon to be called Freeman's Creek, died July 1924. So he lived well into his 90s, but he was sort of a representative of the Irish settlement that was coming into this part of Marathon County, west of Mosinee, settling also into the town of Cleveland and a little bit to the west. So it wasn't just the Halder and the town of Emmett, but the Irish settlement really carried on a little bit to the west from here. And in looking at the Irish migration into this, we start to take a look at, well, what was this all about? And that's a unique story unto itself. But just a little bit on the Robert Freeman story. There's Freeman. You can see the Halder, and a little bit south of Halder and 153 is something called Freeman's Creek. So Robert Freeman came here very early into this part of Marathon County, settled, started a farm, got into businesses, a variety of, I believe he had a sawmill, he had a variety of other businesses that were going on at that time, but he was fortunate to be one of the early people that, and he was able to label that one creek coming through this part of Marathon County as Freeman's Creek. Another person early on, the first chairman of the town of Emmett was Felix McGuire, coming also from County Wexford, Ireland. He was born 1926. We don't have an exact date of when he was here, but he was here in the beginning with the settlement of Halder, as well as the settlement of the town of Emmett. And in 1913, again, I quote Louis Marchetti's History of Marathon County, Halder was described as having a sawmill, a general merchandise store, a tavern, a blacksmith, a cheese factory, and a feed mill. So again, all the elements that you needed in the early days of Marathon County to have a little community. You had everything that was really necessary. Of course, one of the things that I forgot to mention on this was a church, and we'll be talking about that in a few minutes. See, Louis Marchetti does mention the church, but I forgot to put this on the list. But anyways, going back to the Irish settlement here, as with all the ethnic immigrants into Marathon County and into Wisconsin, there's always something going on back in Europe. In Germany, we know the situation with Prussia. We know a variety of the religious, the political, the cultural, a lot of things going on, and the same thing was going on in Ireland. And Robert Emmet was a hero to many people in Ireland, and they took the name of Emmet for their town. I guess there's, in immigration history, there's always the push, what pushed immigrants out of Europe into North America and into Wisconsin and into Marathon County. And there's also the other factor of what pulled people into Marathon County. And again, the breathing free, the good land, the settlement, the free land, not free land, but good land to start a settlement. And so they started a little settlement. Robert Freeman and fellow Irish people started a little settlement west of Mosinee in what came to be called the community of Halder, but also the town of Emmet. So this is the Emmet town hall as it is in Halder today. This is the garage. So this is the town of Emmet garage. Take a look at the four-leaf clovers. Again, strong Irish identification with the town of Emmet, as well as the little community of Halder. This is again a photo of the town hall, as well as the baseball diamonds, the little shelters, all part of the town's community center here, right off of or next door to their town hall. The other Irish part of Halder is St. Patrick's Church in Halder. It's as you come into Halder, first of you'll see St. Patrick's, and then a little bit further on you'll see their town hall. But a major story with regard to Halder and the town of Emmet is St. Patrick's. Again, when they took the name of an Irish saint as their church here in Halder. St. Patrick's Catholic Church, formed in 1871 by a Reverend Spitzberger. Current church built in 1906. The school built in 1921, closed in 1970. So this is their first little church. As with all small little communities, there was always a wood frame church that was their first one. This was their first little community church built in 1872, pretty close to when as they were starting to settle this community. So this is our first church. As the Irish settlement grew, the St. Robert's School, built in 1921, again another picture of St. Patrick's, and then the rectory in 1913. So today the school is gone. There's a memorial to a little bit of a plaque reminding us of St. Robert's School to the left of the church. But they fondly remember that. But again, coming back to St. Patrick's, again, and one of their fine stained glass windows in the church is, of course, paying homage and reverence to St. Patrick, the saint of Ireland. This is a picture of St. Robert's School. As with all ethnic groups, as they came into Marathon County, they built their church like the picture, the early church, and soon followed with a school. They were very sensitive and very determined that their young children be taught, in this case, in the Catholic faith, bringing in the Catholic sisters, always to make sure that their young people are brought up in the Catholic faith. This is where St. Robert's School was. Again, a little bit of a plaque there for St. Patrick's and a plaque for St. Robert's School. This is the another building. This is a rectory next door, also to the church. So a little bit of area here surrounding St. Patrick's Church, and then across the street is the cemetery of St. Patrick's. Again, a testament to the many years of the existence of St. Patrick's Catholic Church. Again, this is sort of a little bit of a summary of Halder. I know this, but I think the story of Halder is the story of St. Patrick's. It's the story of the Irish coming into this part of Marathon County. This part of Marathon County also, of course, had Bohemians a little bit to the north part of the town of Emmet, Germans, Poles, but the Irish settlement is that continuing story of Halder and the town of Emmet. There were Irish in Wausau, of course, there were Irish settlements all over, but the ethnic history of the Irish in Marathon County comes to the little settlement of Halder, and they continue that presence as a little community in Marathon County in the town of Emmet. So that's our little story of Halder today. Next week we'll be talking about the little community of Ponatuskee. So I'll turn it back to Ben.
All right, yeah. As Gary said, there's Halder. Yeah, again, next week we'll be going to Ponatuskee. We'll get a little of the northwest side of the county. See what's happening up there. Yeah, I'm just going to check to see if there is any. Of course, by the time that we I decide that nobody has commented with any questions, then we'll get some, but that's all right. Apologize if that's the case, but it seems like that's maybe a good place to end. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Again, this weekend we have the History Speaks is a big event here for the celebration of the city of Wausau. So if you're interested in that, come on or keep an eye out for that. And otherwise, we'll see you next week with some more history chat.